Jena tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Sthapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadhati Shapadantikam. Yeah, you are right. Text 23. Aho Bakiyam Stanakala Kutam Trikhamsaya Payayad Apyasadvi De Bhegatim Tatriuchitam Tatonyam Kamba Dayalum Sharanam Vrajema. Alas, how shall I take shelter of one more merciful than he who granted the position of mother to a she-demon, Putana, although she was unfaithful, and she prepared deadly poison to be sucked from her breast. Purport. Here is an example of the extreme mercy of the Lord, even to his enemy. It is said that a noble man accepts the good qualities of a person of doubtful character, just as one accepts nectar from a stock of poison. In his babyhood, he was administered deadly poison by Putana, a she-demon who tried to kill the wonderful baby. And because she was a demon, it was impossible for her to know that the Supreme Lord, even though playing the part of a baby, was no one less than the same Supreme Personality of Godhead. His value as the Supreme Lord did not diminish upon his becoming a baby to please his devotee Yashoda. The Lord may assume the form of a baby or a shape other than that of a human being, but it doesn't make the slightest difference. He is always the same Supreme. A living creature, however powerful he may be, or however powerful he may become, by dint of severe penance, can never become equal to the Lord. Lord Krishna accepted the motherhood of Putana because she pretended to be an affectionate mother, allowing Krishna to suck her breast. The Lord accepts the least qualification of the living entity and awards him the highest reward. That is the standard of his character. Therefore, who but the Lord can be the ultimate shelter? This verse is several times quoted in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Aho bhaki yam stanakala kutam. Although she was a demon, Krishna accepted that she's acted like a mother. So he gave her the same destination as a mother. Dhatri, uchitam, like a nurse. So, kamba dayalum, sharanam brajema. To what person should I go that will be more merciful than Krishna, who showed mercy even to such a sneaky demon as Putana? Asadvi means cheating, not honest. Manye suran Bhagvatam stradhishe samrambha marga binavishta chittan ye samyuge chakshatatarkshaputram angse sunabhayudham apatantam. I consider the demons who are inimical toward the Lord to be more than the devotees, because while fighting with the Lord, absorbed in thoughts of enmity, they are able to see the Lord carried on the shoulder of Garuda, the son of Tarksha, Kashyap, and carrying the wheel weapon in his hand. Purport: the Asuras who fought against the Lord face to face got salvation due to their being killed by the Lord. This salvation of the demons is not due to their being devotees of the Lord. It is because of the Lord's causeless mercy. Anyone who is slightly in touch with the Lord, somehow or other, is greatly benefited, even to the point of salvation, due to the excellence of the Lord. He is so kind that he awards salvation even to his enemies, because they come into contact with him and are indirectly absorbed in him by their inimical thoughts. Actually, the demons can never be equal to the pure devotees, but Uddhava was thinking in that way because of his feelings of separation. He was thinking that at the last stage of his life, he might not be able to see the Lord face to face, as did the demons. The fact is that the devotees who are always engaged in the devotional service of the Lord and transcendental love are rewarded many hundreds and thousands of times more than the demons by being elevated to the spiritual planets, where they remain with the Lord in eternal blissful existence. The demons and impersonalists are awarded the facility of merging in the Brahmajyoti effulgence of the Lord, whereas the devotees are admitted into the spiritual planets. For comparison, one can just imagine the difference between floating in space and residing in one of the planets in the sky. The pleasure of the living entities on the planets is greater than that of those who have no body and who merge with the molecules of the sun's rays. The impersonalists, therefore, are no more favored than the enemies of the Lord. Rather, they are both on the same level of spiritual salvation. This was the question in Brihad Bhagavatamrita, that if the demons attain salvation, then there must be something more for the devotees. If demons like Shishupal, Putana, attain liberation, attain freedom from material existence, the liberation they attain can't be the same as the liberation of the great devotees. So it's in response to that the description is given of the glories of Vaikuntha, the spiritual abode, the planets of the spiritual world. In ecstasy, Uddhava is thinking that the demons are better than I am. They're so absorbed in Krishna consciousness. In some place also, Narad Muni expresses the same feeling. How great the demons are, because they're so absorbed in thinking of Krishna. If only I could be that absorbed in Krishna consciousness. Of course, they're negatively absorbed. They're pratikul, against the Lord. But still, they're absorbed in thinking of Krishna. So how wonderful it is. How wonderful it is that somehow or other, what is that? Bhayat, snehat, there's a verse like that, whether by fear, by anger, krodha. So the demons by enmity are thinking of Krishna. So if only we could think of Krishna with such intense concentration. Such intense concentration. We see that sometimes somebody's really got it in for someone, and he's thinking, and the mind just becomes fixed. So the demons were fixed that way, but the object of their fixation was Krishna. So it's wonderful. But then how much more wonderful is the consciousness of the pure devotees who are fixed in Krishna consciousness with love for Krishna. That's still better, far better. Any questions so far? Or comments?
Whereas it is her service attitude is more important than the service, like as mentioned, the Buddhist told like. But here in case of Putana, we see like she was not having any service attitude, just...
No, that was the point. Putana did have a service attitude. Krishna detected that there's some, she wants to serve me. She's offering her breast. Now, maybe it wasn't very straightforward, just like sometimes someone comes to ISKCON and wants to render service, and really they're thinking that if I join this society, I've heard maybe I can get to America, or they have some ulterior motive like that. But somehow they're thinking, let me join. And by that thought, they become purified. Our godbrother Haridas Prabhu in Bombay tells how he was attracted to Srila Prabhupada's wristwatch and wanted to steal it. So he came in contact with Srila Prabhupada and became a devotee. So Krishna took the good part, that anyway, maybe crookedly, a sadhvi, but she's acting like my mother, so she's doing the service. Just, who is it? Yeah, like that. Maybe for some crooked purpose, but she's rendering service, and some attitude is there of being like the nurse. He took it that way. Krishna's, therefore, Kimva Dayalu, who could be more merciful than Krishna, who just sees the good part. He just sees the good part, that, well, she acted like my nurse. Yes?
Here in this case we see that Krishna...
Oh, you're way in the back and I'm way in the front. You have to speak loud.
Here in this case we see that Krishna is taking just a small favor done by Putana. And in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is declaring Sarva Dharman Parityaja Mamekam Saranam. But unless you are 100% surrendered to me, I will not protect you, like he says. So how can we understand this contrast?
Well, Krishna is not going to say, just do a little bit of service and the rest of the time be a rascal. He's asking for 100% service, but in Bhagavad Gita also he says, Swalpam apyasya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. Even a little advancement on this path can save you from the greatest fear. The standard is that one has to give up everything. But this is called causeless mercy. Putana didn't become a sannyasi, she didn't follow Ekadasi, she didn't take up any of the devotional methods. But Krishna decided, well, she's acted like my mother, I should give her mercy, I should reciprocate. That means you can't stop Krishna. If he wants to be merciful, that's it. The rules are one thing, but Krishna can break the rules. After all, they're his rules. He can make them, he can break them. Yes.
So Krishna's childhood pastimes are usually occur in Vrindavan only. So are they eternal pastimes?
They're described as eternal because they're always going on. They're happening here, then happening here, then happening here, then happening here. So that way they're described as Nitya Leela.
So what happened at the time when Mahavishnu is...
Yeah, I thought about that too. When he inhales, I don't know. I'm just repeating what the Acharyas have said, that it's always going on. Vasudevasya devakyam jato bhojendra mandane chakirshur bhagavan asya sham ajena biyachita. The personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna, being prayed to by Brahma to bring welfare to the earth, was begotten by Vasudeva in the womb of his wife Devaki, in the prison of the king of Bhoja. Purport: although there is no difference between the Lord's pastimes of appearance and disappearance, the devotees of the Lord do not generally discuss the subject matter of his disappearance. Vidura inquired indirectly from Uddhava about the incident of the Lord's disappearance by asking him to relate Krishna Katha, or topics on the history of Lord Krishna. Thus, Uddhava began the topics from the very beginning of his appearance as the son of Vasudeva and Devaki in the prison of Kamsa, king of the Bhojas, at Mathura. The Lord has no business in this world, but when so requested by devotees like Brahma, he descends on the earth for the welfare of the entire universe. This is stated in the Bhagavad Gita, Partranaya sadhunam vinashaya traduskritam dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. So Uddhava has been asked about an unhappy topic, the disappearance of the Lord. And rather than jump into that sad affair, he begins by speaking about the appearance of Krishna. He begins by speaking about the appearance of Krishna. Yes. Prabhupada said there's no difference, appearance and disappearance, but the disappearance pastimes devotees don't like to discuss so much. Tato Nandavrajam ita pitra kamsad. We'll see that he will talk about the disappearance of the Yadu dynasty, but first he'll discuss all these wonderful activities that the Lord performed while present. Tato Nandavrajam ita pitra kangsad bibhibyata ekadasha samastatra gudharchi sabalovashat. Thereafter, his father, afraid of Kamsa, brought him to the cow pastures of Maharaj Nanda, and there he lived for 11 years, like a covered flame, with his elder brother Baldev. There was no necessity of the Lord's being dispatched to the house of Nanda Maharaj out of fear of Kamsa's determination to kill him as soon as he appeared. It is the business of the Asuras to try to kill the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or to prove by all means that there's no God, or that Krishna is an ordinary human being and not God. This is really the demonic mentality. The people present themselves as scientists, as skeptics, as rationalists, as whatever, philosophers, and rail against the personality of Godhead, the existence of the personality of Godhead. It's like they have the mentality of Kamsa. Kamsa is always thinking of Krishna, how to kill Krishna, how to kill Krishna. They're always thinking how to get rid of this foolish idea of God, how to get God out of the picture. There's God. So they're typically arrogant and abusive and snide and sarcastic and scoffing and condescending. Hey, foolish sentimentalists. They have no sense. They believe in all these old musty books and these tales that people tell in villages about all these miraculous pastimes of somehow or other to get rid of God. That's their mentality. Because their hearts are contaminated by all sinful activities, by contaminations of so many sorts. Tanaha dushata kruran. They're envious, mischievous, naradhaman, the lowest, maya pratyagana, mudha naradhama. So we find that they're like Kamsa. They're just on a mission. Kamsa was on a mission to kill Krishna. That was practically his mission in life. And so the demons also, they make it their mission to disabuse people of these foolish ideas about God. And then finally Krishna just knocks them off like ants. Not even personally, he just, through his material energy, sends them a heart attack or drops a tree on them or whatever it is. There's so many ways, easy ways to kill a demon. Lord Krishna is not affected by such determination of men of Kamsa's class. So there's Prabhupada quoted a Bengali proverb. What is that? Something Shakuni Goru Morena. Shakuni Shapa Goru Morena. Huh? The Shakuni, the vulture, is cursing the cow to die. Shakuni Shap Goru Morena. The vulture, for so many days, he doesn't get anything to eat, but he sees that there's a cow down there, but the cow's still alive, so he's cursing the cow, die already, die. Prabhupada said, does it mean that because the Shakuni is cursing that the cow has to die? But the vulture is cursing the cow to die. So the men of the Kamsa class, their God is dead, or trying to get rid of God one way or another. But Krishna doesn't have to comply with their wishes, nor is he affected. But in order to play the role of a child, he agreed to be carried by his father to the cow pastures of Nanda Maharaj, because Vasudeva was afraid of Kamsa. Nanda Maharaj was due to receive him as his child, and Yashoda Mai was also to enjoy the childhood pastimes of the Lord. And therefore, to fulfill everyone's desire, he was carried from Mathura to Vrindavan just after his appearance in the prison house of Kamsa. So it was Krishna's arrangement. On the plea of fear of Kamsa, or by instilling fear of Kamsa into the heart of Vasudeva, he arranged to be carried to Vrindavan, which is where he wanted to be anyway. Because Nanda Maharaj was there, Yashoda Mai was there, they're due, Prabhupada said here, to enjoy the pastimes, childhood pastimes of the Lord. So he lived there for 11 years and completed all his fascinating pastimes of childhood, boyhood, and adolescence with his elder brother, Lord Baladev. Kritavan kila karmani saharamena keshava. Vasudeva's thought of protecting Krishna from the wrath of Kamsa is part of a transcendental relationship. The Lord enjoys more when someone takes him as his subordinate son who needs the protection of a father than he does when someone accepts him as the Supreme Lord. He is the Father of everyone, and He protects everyone. But when his devotee takes it for granted that the Lord is to be protected by the devotee's care, it is a transcendental joy for the Lord. Thus, when Vasudeva, out of fear of Kamsa, carried him to Vrindavan, the Lord enjoyed it. Otherwise, he had no fear from Kamsa or anyone else. Well, the Lord He's the controller of everyone. He's the Father of all living beings, but He enjoys the parental feelings of a devotee like Vasudeva. Any questions? Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that he was this covered flame. Says one meaning is that his glories were covered so that Kamsa and others wouldn't know that Krishna is there, he's doing these things. He performed these pastimes unknown to Kamsa, a covered flame. And another meaning, because he covered his qualities as the Supreme Lord with sweetness. So the grandeur of the Lord was covered by his sweet qualities. Parito vatsapayar vatsangs chadayan vyaharad vibhu yamuno pavane kujat dvija sankulitangripe. In his childhood, the Almighty Lord was surrounded by cowherd boys and calves that just see. The people are, oh, Almighty Lord, the great Vishnu or the great Allah or the great Jehovah. So what is that great Almighty Lord doing? He's surrounded by cowherd boys and calves. That's his enjoyment. And thus he traveled on the shore of the Jamuna River through gardens densely covered with trees and filled with the vibrations of chirping birds. Purport: Nanda Maharaj was a landholder for King Kamsa, but because by caste he was a Vaishya, a member of the mercantile and agricultural community, he maintained thousands of cows. It is the duty of the Vaishyas to give protection to the cows, just as the Kshatriyas are to give protection to the human beings. Because the Lord was a child, he was put in charge of the calves with his cowherd boy friends. These cowherd boys were great rishis and yogis in their previous births, and after many such pious births, they gained the association of the Lord and could play with him on equal terms. Such cowherd boys never cared to know who Krishna was, but they played with him as a most intimate and lovable friend. They were so fond of the Lord that at night they would only think of the next morning when they would be able to meet the Lord and go together to the forest for cowherding. So this is the cowherd boys. They're always thinking of Krishna. And at night they're just thinking, just like sometimes if you're going to go someplace, like when you were a child and your mother and father are taking you someplace, then you go to sleep thinking, oh, tomorrow we're going to go to such and such place. So the cowherd boys were thinking like that. Tomorrow we're going to go cowherding with Krishna again. So they were absorbed in thinking like that. And they have they play in different ways. Some place Prabhupada says that sometimes Krishna played like a king, and the cowherd boys played like his subjects. Or even sometimes Krishna played like the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Well, that's Krishna. He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But just for fun, he's playing like God or playing like a king, and the cowherd boys are saying, yes, Your Majesty, no, Your Majesty. Just for fun. The forests on the shore of the Jamuna are all beautiful gardens full of trees of mango, jackfruit, apples, guava, oranges, grapes, berries, palm fruit, and so many other plants and fragrant flowers. And because the forest was on the bank of the Jamuna, naturally there were ducks, cranes, and peacocks on the branches of the trees. All these trees and birds and beasts were pious living entities, born in the transcendental abode of Vrindavan, just to give pleasure to the Lord and his eternal associates, the cowherd boys. Any questions here?
These cowherd boys were great rishis and yogis in the previous births and after such past births. And sometimes we see they were the demigods before. But somewhere we heard that the eternal associate.
Sometimes they're described as demigods, and sometimes they're described as eternal associates. Sometimes they're described as rishis, krita punya punja. Someplace, Jiva Goswami is talking, Sanatana Goswami also is talking about this, that it's said that the Vasu became, who does he become? He becomes Nanda Maharaj? How is it? There are two, is it this Vasu that becomes Nanda Maharaj or becomes Vasudev? There's I'm spacing out on it. Who is it? Is it there's one Vasu, one of the Vasus, who becomes Vasudev or Nanda Maharaj? I've forgotten. Like that. It's Bhishma.
Yeah, out of 8 Vasus, Bhishma was one.
Yeah, that's a different story. But we're talking about.
Which Vasu becomes?
Yeah, anyway, one of the demigods becomes becomes Nanda Maharaj or becomes Vasudev. So how is that? Because they're the eternal parents of Krishna. So then Jiva Goswami explains that such and such demigod, by such and such penances, they become such and such demigod and get to become the parent of Krishna. But what happens is that they merge into the, how is it? Let's see. The eternal parents of Krishna expand themselves by a portion and appear in this world as these sadhakas, as these rishis or demigods. And then they become the parents of Krishna. And then when the whole thing is wrapped up, then we've got it. Is that okay? It's discussed in Brihad Bhagavatamrita. Yeah, this discussion is there. While playing like a small child, am I in the right place? Yeah. While playing like a small child with his associates, the Lord killed many demons, including Akasura, Bhagasura, Pralambasura, and Gardhabasura. Although he appeared at Vrindavan just as a boy, he was actually like the covered flames of a fire. As a small particle of fire can kindle a great fire with fuel, so the Lord killed all these great demons, beginning from his babyhood in the house of Nanda Maharaj. The land of Vrindavan, the Lord's childhood playground, still remains today, and anyone who visits these places enjoys the same transcendental bliss, although the Lord is not physically visible to our imperfect eyes. Lord Chaitanya recommended this land of the Lord as identical with the Lord, and therefore worshipable by the devotees. This instruction is taken up especially by the followers of Lord Chaitanya, known as the Gaudiya Vaishnavas. And because the land is identical with the Lord, devotees like Uddhava and Vidura visited these places 5,000 years ago in order to have direct contact with the Lord, visible or not visible. Thousands of devotees of the Lord are still wandering in these sacred places of Vrindavan, and all of them are preparing themselves to go back home, back to Godhead. The different kinds of places attract different kinds of people. There's a place in America, Las Vegas, which is famous for gambling. Even in the airport, there are gambling machines. So it attracts people who are of that interest. Drink and gamble and throw a lot of money around and make a show of sense enjoyment. Then Las Vegas is the place for you, and there's thousands of people with the same mindset that you'll mix with when you go to Las Vegas. And they're sitting in these next to these machines, putting money in. Totally mad. How birds of a feather flock together. So Vrindavan attracts people who are Krishna's devotees. Even that, what is that? Varanasi. It's like Vrindavan for the Mayavadis. You know, Mayavadis are especially attracted to Varanasi, Haridwar, other sacred places. I was surprised when I went to Haridwar and so many people were offering me respects, Namo Narayan, because they're thinking like that, impersonalist conception. If someone takes sannyas, then he's also Narayan. And one Mayavadi sannyasi offers his respects to another that way, Namo Narayan. Yeah. I offer my respects to you, O Narayan. Well, I respect you too, O Narayan. So they're mutual praise society. But the devotees are especially attracted to places like Vrindavan, where the Lord has his transcendental activities, his personal affairs. The Ram Bhaktas are especially attracted to Ayodhya. So if you go to Ayodhya even now, you'll find there's so many Ram Bhaktas living there, chanting the holy name of the Lord. We went there in Padayatra. There was one place, it's quite well-known place, ashram of Lord Ram, and they distribute prasadam. And while distributing prasadam, they're chanting the name of Lord Ram. So if they're going around giving more chapatis, they're chanting, Chapati Ram, Chapati Ram. Or the man who's distributing dal, Dal Ram, Dal Ram, Dal Ram. So there's so many Ram Bhaktas who are staying in Ayodhya and preparing themselves to go back to the kingdom of Ayodhya in the spiritual world, dedicating their lives to the service of Lord Ramchandra. But Vrindavan is especially the place that attracts the devotees of Lord Krishna, because that's the place where Krishna performed his wonderful activities. He may be visible, he may be not visible, but the devotees know. Tadhama Vrindavan. There's no difference between Vrindavan and the Lord. The Lord means the Lord, his form, his qualities, his name, his pastimes. Otherwise, why are we chanting this name? What's the point? You know, just making this sound, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. But the devotees know that the sound and the person are absolute. So there's no difference. If I'm associating with the holy name of the Lord, then that's the Lord. Not that the Lord is only his form, he's also his name. He's also his place. So Vrindavan, if I go to Vrindavan, I'm also associating with the Lord. And so the name of the Lord, the message of the Lord, if I'm hearing Bhagavad Gita, that's also as good as the Lord himself. So the devotees take advantage of all these ways of associating with the Lord through his form, quality, pastimes. Deity of the Lord is also the Lord. Okay. Komarim darshayam cheshtam prekshaniyam prajokasam rudaniva hasan mugdha balasingha valokanaha. When the Lord displayed his activities just suitable for childhood, he was visible only to the residents of Vrindavan. That means he saved his pastimes. Even in Mathura, you don't get to see these things. Krishna didn't grow up in Mathura. He didn't have a childhood in the city. He was shifted to Vrindavan, so only the Brajbasis got to participate in Krishna's childhood pastimes. They were not performed anywhere else. Sometimes he would cry and sometimes laugh, just like a child. And while so doing, he would appear like a lion cub. Purport: if anyone wants to enjoy the childhood pastimes of the Lord, then he has to follow in the footsteps of the residents of Braja, like Nanda, Upananda, and other parental inhabitants. A child may insist on having something and cry like anything to get it, disturbing the whole neighborhood. And then immediately after achieving the desired things, he laughs. Such crying and laughing is enjoyable to the parents and elderly members of the family. So the Lord would simultaneously cry and laugh in this way and merge his devotee parents in the humor of transcendental pleasure. It's exactly how this works. What is it that a child is crying and crying and crying, and somehow or other it's enjoyable. He's crying and then laughing. But for the parents, these are all enjoyable activities. For others, perhaps not so much. But just like a child is going around making a big racket and disturbing the class and everything, and the mother and father are ooh, the child is, he's having so much fun. Out of love. After all, the child is behaving like a fool. If you or I behaved like this, they would call an ambulance or send for some sort of mental health professional. But when a child performs in such activities, then it's very charming. And the parents become enamored, or yes, the parents become attracted, or the elderly people become attracted, oh, the child is so cute. So originally that's there in Krishna. These incidents are enjoyable only by the residents of Braja like Nanda Maharaj, and not by the impersonalist worshippers of Brahma or Paramatma. Totally inaccessible. The Brahmavadis, the Paramatmavadis, they can't get near all of this. Hiranmayena patrena satyasya pihitam mukham. They're blinded by the Brahmajyoti. Sometimes you're walking at night and some car comes and shines its bright lights on you. You can't see anything. It's dangerous, actually, because now you're blinded. Or sometimes if you're driving and another car turns on its bright lights, then you can't see anything. So the Mayavadis, they can't see the pastimes of Krishna because they're blinded by the Brahmajyoti. They're so attracted to that bright light that it blinds them. So they can't see because they've philosophized that individual activities are Maya, personal activities are Maya. So then Krishna's pastimes for them are Maya. So they have no access. And the Paramatmavadis, they're just interested in the super soul within the heart. They're not interested in these cow herding activities or such things as that. They also have no access because they don't have the same love for Krishna. But the Brajbasis, that's their nature. They're all pure devotees. So they get to see these pastimes. Sometimes when attacked in the forest by demons, Krishna would appear struck with wonder, but he looked on them like the cub of a lion and killed them. This is Krishna. He would appear struck with wonder. It's all his own doing, but still he's wonderstruck. Oh, such an impressive demon. Even it's said in the description of autumn that Krishna would be with his friends in the caves and enjoying in the caves while the rains are going on. And he'd be observing the scene, so much rain and this and that. He'd be thinking, material nature is so great. It's his energy. He's thinking, my material energy is really quite something. His childhood companions would also be struck with wonder, and when they came back home, they would narrate the story to their parents, and everyone would appreciate the qualities of their Krishna. Child Krishna did not belong only to his parents, Nanda and Yashoda. He was the son of all the elderly inhabitants of Vrindavan, and the friend of all contemporary boys and girls. Everyone loved Krishna. He was the life and soul of everyone, including the animals, the cows and the calves. Now this is Vrindavan, simply loving Krishna. Anything? Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that when fierce demons came to Braja, Krishna appeared just like a young lion who, though afraid of fierce animals in the forest, threatens them by showing his bravery. Even a young lion, although he's afraid, but he's a lion. So he lions it up and threatens them. So Krishna did that with the demons. This caused anxiety by his parents who had affection for him. Sa eva gotanam lakshmya niketam sita go vrisham charayan anugan gopan ranad venur aridamat. There's an editing error in this verse. It should say, effectively, while herding the very beautiful cows and bulls, who were the reservoir of all opulence and fortune, the Lord used to blow his flute, and thus he enlivened his faithful followers, the cowherd boys. As he grew to 6 and 7 years old, the Lord was given charge of looking after the cows and bulls in the grazing ground. He was the son of a well-to-do landholder who owned hundreds and thousands of cows. And according to Vedic economics, one is considered a rich man by the strength of his store of grains and cows. With only these two things, cows and grain, humanity can solve its eating problem. Human society needs only sufficient grain and sufficient cows to solve its economic problems. All other things but these two are artificial necessities created by man to kill his valuable life at the human level and waste his time in things which are not needed. Lord Krishna, as the teacher of human society, personally showed by his acts that the mercantile community or the Vaishyas should herd cows and bulls and thus give protection to the valuable animals. According to Smriti regulation, the cow is the mother and the bull the father of the human being. The cow is the mother because just as one sucks the breast of one's mother, human society takes cow's milk. Similarly, the bull is the father of human society because the father earns for the children, just as the bull tills the ground to produce food grains. Human society will kill its spirit of life by killing the father and the mother. It is mentioned herein that the beautiful cows and bulls were various checkered colors, red, black, green, yellow, ash, etc. And because of their colors and healthy, smiling features, the atmosphere was enlivening. Over and above all, the Lord used to play his celebrated flute. The sound vibrated by his flute would give his friends such transcendental pleasure that they would forget all the talks of the Brahmananda, which is so praised by the impersonalists. These cowherd boys, as will be explained by Shukadeva Goswami, were living entities who'd accumulated heaps of pious acts and thus were enjoying with the Lord in person and hearing his transcendental flute. The Brahma Samhita confirms the Lord's blowing his transcendental flute. Venam kvanvantam aravinda dalayataksham parhavatam samasitam buddha sundarangam kandarpa koti kamaniya vishesha shobham govindamadi purusham tamahang bhajami. Brahmaji said, I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who plays on his transcendental flute. His eyes are like lotus flowers, he is decorated with peacock plumes, and his bodily color resembles a fresh black cloud, although his bodily features are more beautiful than millions of cupids. These are the special features of the Lord. All right, shall we stop here? Yeah. Thank you all very much. Hare Krishna.